Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Chasing Rabbits. My name is Scott Brown, and you have found my vlog dedicated to trying to help you become the leader that you always wished that you had worked for. So my question to you tonight is, what do you do when the plan doesn't work, when something goes wrong? What do you do? We all have great plans in life. We have great plans with our organizations and our teams, and sometimes stuff happens. Life happens. We don't get the result we wanted. We fall off the trail. Whatever it is, something goes wrong, and we don't end up where we wanted to end up. What do you do? It's been said that the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. So what do you do when it goes awry? Here's where I'm going with this. So back in 2018, May of 2018 particularly, after a trip to the doctor, I ended up on Weight Watchers. Yes, I ended up on Weight Watchers. Back in 2018, it was May. We had just moved into our house in March, so we'd only been in there for I think like 7 weeks, 6 weeks, something like that. I ended up on Weight Watchers. And at the time I went on Weight Watchers, I was rather girthy. I was 274 pounds, I think, in that May, when I ended up on Weight Watchers. And if you talk to me during that time and you ask me, hey man, how are you? My response was always, hungry. I'm really, really hungry. But May, June, July, August, I stayed on Weight Watchers. I was hungry, but I was committed also because I knew that I needed to make a lifestyle change. I knew I needed to make some changes to live a healthier life, and I was committed to doing that. And by the time we got to August, I had lost almost 50 pounds. I had gone from 274 down to 225. It's the lowest weight that I'd been in years, and I was so happy with myself. Then a funny thing happened in August. My wife's boss back then ended up leaving the company, and her company asked her if she could look after his role on a temporary basis. And I knew after being in HR for years, I had watched her career go. I've been watching the trajectory. I've listened to the conversations. I knew this wasn't going to be temporary. I knew this was going to be a thing. But it was a temporary role. She was going to be doing her job. She was also going to be looking after his responsibility. There was a transition in there, and I knew it was a fantastic opportunity for her. But I also knew that at some point, this beautiful house that we had just built on a lake in Orlando, Florida, in St. Cloud, was going to end up being where somebody else lived. And to cope with that kind of disappointment and with the disconnect, the turmoil in life, I started to eat a little bit again, and my weight started to slowly crawl back up. And by October, it was up around 230, 233, somewhere in there. So I hadn't crept up that much, but I knew that I was doing some things I was supposed to do. I wasn't always as hungry, which was good, but I also wasn't always as dedicated. And we ended up moving to Fort Wayne that November. By October, my wife had gotten promoted into a position as a director, and we ended up coming to Fort Wayne, found a house to rent, went back home, and it was time to pack up and move to Fort Wayne. And Weight Watchers went away. There was no more, how are you hungry? It was, how are you moving? So I moved to Fort Wayne, and over the next few months, from getting here in November of 2018 until, I don't know, probably that summer, probably like May or June, somewhere around there, I went off Weight Watchers and my weight slowly crept up. It went from like the 230, 233 to like 235 to like 240 to like 250. And in the 250s somewhere, my wife's like, you really should, like, this is starting to like creep up again. You should go back on Weight Watchers. I was like, oh God, hate Weight Watchers. But I did it anyway. Went back on Weight Watchers, lost like 20 pounds, got back down to like the 230, 235 range again. Was like, good. Went back off Weight Watchers. And then COVID hit. Actually, before COVID hit. Winter hit last year. And the weight started to come up again. And then COVID hit. and it started to come up a little bit more. And beginning of January, I got on the scale and was like, ooh, that's a big number. And by the time February hit, my scale was like, hey, one at a time, please. So beginning of February, I decided, well, it's time to do something again. And I ended up back on Weight Watchers for the third time. And I'm determined this time to not just get down, but to stay down. I'm getting a little bit older. I'm in my 50s now. I can't be carrying around 284 pounds, which is where I topped out at beginning of February. It's way too much. I'm not living a healthy lifestyle. I had to make some changes in my life. But there's this cycle that's happened, and this isn't just over the past couple of years. It's happened for years that I would do better, I would get worse, I would get better and get worse. My weight would fluctuate up and down depending upon jobs and moves and the environment. It would go up or down, and I never really maintained a healthy weight. But I was always looking to how to get someplace. I was always looking for what's going to be at the end of the road. Sometimes as leaders, we have to admit we can't see the end of the road. And we're going to make mistakes. We're not going to be perfect. We are going to succeed, and then we are going to fail. And failure is part of the journey. It's what you do when you fail that really matters. Do you get back and try it again? Do you do something different so that you're not repeating the same processes over and over and just hoping that something else will work? So, we bought a treadmill, and I'm running most every day, which is kind of crazy when you consider that I'm now back down to like 274, which was the weight that I was way too big at 2 years ago, and that caused the Weight Watchers in the first place, and now I'm back down to that weight. But I'm running most every day. I do yoga a couple times a week. And it really, if you want something funny, watch a fat guy do yoga. It's hysterical. I can't do 90% of the stuff, but I'm trying. And that's really all we can do. As leaders, we're not going to always be perfect. We're not going to always do the right things. But we have to admit when we fall off the wagon. We have to admit when we do the wrong thing and then take steps to do something about it. And I think that's the message for tonight. You're going to mess up. Hopefully it won't be so that you become unhealthy and end up in the range of an offensive lineman for the NFL. But hopefully whatever it is, you'll stop the journey before it gets out of control. Do that. Make a change. Commit yourself to doing better next time, to doing better in the future, and keep moving forward. The thrill of the journey isn't in the first step, it's in the second step. Because in the first step, your back foot is still stuck wherever you were before. So you take one step forward, but one step is still behind you where you started. The second step propels you past where you were to where you're trying to go. We're going to all make mistakes, but if you keep taking second steps, eventually you're going to find a way to get there. I'm determined this time to try to keep my weight down into the, strong safety range instead of the offensive lineman range. I want to be around for a while. So we're doing something different. What do you need to change? What's happened to you in the past couple of years that you look back and say, it's probably not the thing that I wanted to do, and maybe it's time for a change? Mine is health. Yours could be a lot of things. Know that those who are looking at you are also looking at what you do when you have those mistakes. I'm sure people are looking at me like, when's he going to stop eating? That kind of happened on the first. So we're going to keep working forward. And hopefully by the time this year's done, there'll only be one chin when I'm doing my last videos in December. So until tomorrow, I wish you well. Enjoy your life. Enjoy yourselves. Have a wonderful night. I am going to go to bed hungry yet again because Weight Watchers really does suck. But it's necessary. So have a good night, my friends. Toast on. Be well. Be healthy. And know that when you mess up, you always have the opportunity to fix whatever it is that you need to fix. Until tomorrow, my friends, have a good night.